All right, so here we are at topic number 3 on our Keystone list. It's a bit wordy, but let's read it. Describe and interpret relationships between structure and function. You're going to see that a lot in bio. Structure referring to what it looks like, the appearance, and function referring to what it does, its job. And so that those two are always related. The reason something looks the way it does is because it has a specific job. All right, and we're going to take a look at that across the levels of organization, starting from organelles all the way through multicellular organisms. We're going to break this up into several videos, but today we're going to take a look at the structure functions in the organelles of eukaryotic cells. So that is the title for this video. Now, in our previous video, we said there's 2 types of cells, and so on your keystones, if you get a name of an organism that has the word bacteria in it, such as, say on your test you see, hey, E. coli bacteria or streptococcus bacteria or lactobacillus bacteria, like, doesn't matter. If it has the word bacteria in its name, then it is prokaryotic. Everything else, if it doesn't have the word bacteria in it, it is a eukaryotic cell. All right, so this is what we're going to focus on today, the ones with the organelles in it. All right, so we're going to, if you have your paper, I would hold it landscape or sideways. That's the way my board is. And we're just going to take up most of this space and draw a, actually leave some room around the borders. We're going to make a generic eukaryotic cell, something like this. That's about the layout on my board, but you work with your paper. I'm going to leave some room around the edges for some labels, and I'm just going to go from left to right. So don't start in the middle because you'll need a lot of stuff in this drawing. All right. So here's your cell membrane. Let's talk about the organelles that you would find in a eukaryotic cell. Let's start with let's just start with the membrane. It's good review. So this is your cell membrane, or also known as the plasma membrane, and that's going to be responsible. That's going to be responsible for transport. And we'll get to the whole unit 4 is about transport, or most of it. That just means it lets certain things in and certain things out. The cell membrane, that's its job, main job. It's not to protect the cell, although it does that a little bit too, but it is to transport. All right, so once you go inside the cell, in the cytoplasm, one of the main organelles is going to have the DNA in it. So there's DNA, and that is going to be known as the nucleus, and its main job is just, I don't know if it just has the DNA in it. So you would say contains DNA or genetic information. I'm not sure if you would say that is a job, but that is where you find the DNA. All right, now attached to the nucleus is another membrane-bound organelle. So all of these have a covering. That's just what membrane means. It has a covering or a lining that goes around it. And so it looks kind of like this irregular shape, this floppy shape, but it's connected to the nucleus. All right, so this one is known as the ER. Stands for endoplasmic reticulum, but that's just, right now we'll just leave it as ER. And so on your keystones, ER should be fine. You can write the whole word out, of course. Now turns out there's 2 types of ER. Part of the ER, or part of the endoplasmic reticulum, are going to have these ribosomes on it, which make proteins. So that kind of makes the surface look rough. So this is known as the rough ER. The ER that has the ribosomes on them. And so once the ribosomes make proteins, the rough ER's job will be to package them. Package the proteins made by the ribosomes. Okay, so that is the function. All right, and we're not describing the structure because we're drawing it out. So we're drawing what it looks like, and we're also matching it up with its function, its job. All right, now on the other side, we'll leave it without the ribosomes, and that will give it like a smooth appearance. All right, so that's known as the smooth ER. All right, the smooth ER job is to make lipids, like fats. A lot of hormones are lipid-based. Hormones are molecules that help in communication, and we may get into a little bit of that later. Hormones, and it also is responsible for detoxifying harmful chemicals that enter the enter cells. Right, so. Your liver cells, for example, have a lot of smooth ER because one of the functions of your liver is to detoxify. So like someone that drinks alcohol, that alcohol will get converted into less harmful chemicals by the liver primarily. Right, so those are the three main things that the smooth ER does. All right, so let's go back and just formally define what the ribosomes do. We did this actually in an earlier video. But these dots are organelles, but they are not membrane bound. And so on your keystone, these are the only ones that don't have a covering around them. They don't have this membrane. All right, so they're found in all cells, if you recall. I know the title is called Organelles of Eukaryotic cells, but these are the ones you're finding also. All right, ribosomes, they simply make proteins. All right, so that's the only place that proteins are made. And, students like to say everything makes proteins. And this is the only answer that should come out when you're asked where are proteins made, or when you're trying to say where are proteins made. All right, so ribosomes can be found in two general locations. One is on the ER, the rough ER, and also they can be found unattached, just floating around the cytoplasm. All right, and the reason for that is sometimes proteins are made that need to leave the cell. Right, and so those are made on the ribosomes attached to the ER. All right, so like if you need to ship something far away, you need to package it into a box and take it to like the post office or FedEx or something like that. It's kind of the same idea. Is when proteins need to leave the cell, go somewhere far away, it needs to be packaged and by the ER, which is why those proteins are made on ribosomes on the ER. Now, if the protein is just going to stay inside the cell, no need to package them. They're made right on the unattached ribosome. So there's two really types of ribosomes. The ones that are attached, they'll make proteins that leave the cell, and unattached ribosomes will make proteins that remain in the cell. All right. In any case, ribosomes make proteins. All right, so a little bit off here, we'll draw another one of these irregular floppy shapes. It looks just like the ER, but it is unattached. It is not connected to the ER or the nucleus. So this one is going to be known as the, let me see here. We'll go down here. All right, and that's known as Golgi. It may appear as Golgi apparatus or this and that, but it's always going to have the name Golgi in it. So that's referring to the membrane-bound organelle not attached to the nucleus. All right. So what's going to happen is when the proteins are made on the ribosomes, all right, and they need to leave the cell, they're going to get packaged by the rough ER, all right, and then they need to get repackaged and modified. You can think of this like as the post office. Don't write post office on your keystones ever. But it kind of acts like it. It'll take in the package from the ER, repackage it, put an address on it, and say, you need to go this way, and so on. So the Golgi is going to repackage or remodify is also a term. Let's just say repackage the proteins. It'll add an address to it, and you can use that word, repackage, and I'm not sure if I spelled that right. So 2 Ds, and add an address to it. Right. There's other things that we're leaving out here, like vesicles, and we'll get to some of these little minor ones in a later video. But let's just hit the major organelles found in eukaryotic cells. All right, let's do one more. And I need the space here, so leave some space for something else in a minute. But all eukaryotic cells are going to have mitochondria, all of them, plants, animals, anything that's not bacteria. Okay? They're going to have mitochondria. Mitochondria look like the bean-shaped organelles. They have 2 membranes actually, the membrane outside, and then the membrane inside is really folded. It's like crinkled up. So we'll draw a couple of those like that. All right, so that's your that's your mitochondria, and please don't say it is the powerhouse of the cell. You learned that like in middle school, right? But on the Keystones, we're going to use the proper definition of what its function is. So the mitochondria's job is to take food, it's also known as glucose, and make ATP out of it. Let's just go with that. Makes ATP. Because there'll be other videos on getting into the details of how that is made, but its end goal is to make ATP, which I hope you know is energy. All right, is the energy the cell uses. All right, so the mitochondria looks like that. It's a bean shape with the little inner membrane that's folded, and its job is to make ATP. Right, so all eukaryotic cells have that. All right, before we get to the last part here, I'm going to add a couple things to the outside of the cell. I'm just going to stay on this side. So not all cells have these, but it has shown up on a lot of sample items released by the state. So you'll see like a long whip-like tail. Sometimes you'll see like these like hair-like structures. That's a good analogy. All right. In any case, they are different, but you know, to simplify this, they're primarily used to help in some kind of movement. All right, so that's the key word you want to relate to these. And this is called flagella. And these are called cilia. All right, and again, both of them, you know, think of your like nose hairs moving snot through your body. Like they're involved in some kind of job where they need to move something or move themselves. Like your lungs have these, and so. All right, so flagella, cilia. You know, you get a question, say, hey, what does this thing do? And you get a choice, and any of those choices has the word move or movement. That's the right answer. All right, so there are other stuff, but we're going to leave it at here, and then we're going to do three things that are specific to plant cells. All right, so these are found in all eukaryotic cells, except for these, but the ones in here. Even plant cells. But plant cells have 3 things in addition. So I'm going to do these 3 things in green. Green for plants. All right, you need a big chunk of space here because in plant cells, so these are plant structures. So the largest organelles in plant cells, if you were to look in a microscope, would be like this big, just like sac. It's called a central vacuole. And so its job is to store water, nutrients, and waste. Right. If you just say store water, you're probably fine. Right. So you water plants, or plants get water from roots, and it's stored in these large containers inside the cell called the large central vacuole. Right. So animal cells do have vacuoles, but they're much, much smaller. So there's one. The other thing is outside of the cell membrane, outside of the plasma membrane, plant cells have a cell wall. All right, so you ever wonder why trees can go up to be like hundreds and hundreds of feet tall and they don't have bones? Well, it's because their cells have cell walls. It's like this rigid layer outside of the cell membrane. And that provides support and a little bit of protection, but support. And when the central vacuole expands, because it's absorbing water, it's going to add pressure to everything around it, and that's also going to help with the support of the plant. So you have your plant. Why is it upright? You get a question like that. It's because the central vacuole, when it expands, it pushes against the cell wall eventually, and those two structures work together in keeping plants upright. Okay. One last. This was a long video. One last organelle. This one's only found in plant cells. All right. It's another bean-shaped organelle, but this one doesn't have this one has like these stacks of discs or pancakes, or don't write pancakes on your keystones, but they have these like discs. We'll get to the proper names later when we get to Unit 3, but these are known as chloroplast. All right, the job of the chloroplast is to make glucose. And we're going to leave it at that because there's a whole video on that. Right. Make glucose, and forgot here, support. All right, I know that was a lot, so you're going to probably need to redo this one from scratch like many times. This is going to cover definitely some questions you're going to see when you take your test. All right, so go ahead and practice.